We're seconds away from getting it started at Lambeau Field. New England and Green Bay, the two hottest teams from each conference. Hello, friends. Jim Nantz along with Phil Simms. And a thought before kickoff here, partner.
Well, I think you said it already. The two hottest teams are playing well, and two-star quarterbacks who are at the top of their game. Is going to be exciting to watch.
This game is being broadcast in Spanish. We're available using the SAP button on your television. The Packers won the toss and have decided to receive. So we'll see Aaron Rodgers and company first. Harris and Hyde are back deep for Green Bay to receive the kick from Gostowski. And Aaron Rodgers about to start a game for the first time in his career against the Patriots. And we're seeing first the run back out to the 28 with Harris. Wayne Harris returns at 18 yards. Here's Aaron Rodgers. He's been hot since week 4, and at home, well, he's been hot for years. Hasn't even thrown a pick at home now in 2 years. This line has been intact since week 3. They got a rookie center who's done a fine job, Corey Linsley. And Jordy Nelson, he's another one that really kicks up his game another notch here at home. They've got a third receiver in on the first snap, Davante Adams. And here we go, Aaron Rodgers going against New England for the first time in his career. He saw some backup play 8 years ago, but it's Lacy, the target on the first play of the game, and a gain of 12. Matt Patricia's defense of the Patriots. Here you go, Rob Ninkovich. He knows how to stir things up, and we're going to see him long snapping today as Danny Aiken, their long snapper, is out. And Revis, we're going to be watching these matchups, Revis and Browner, and how they're going to try to handle Nelson and Cobb. They've got Browner on Nelson at the bottom of the screen.
319!
Revis on Cobb in the slot on 1st and 10. A carry now coming from Lacy, and he's got all kinds of room, and it drives the pile for an extra 3 or 4 yards to the New England side of the field, running behind that rookie center. We talked about Linsley for 12.
Yeah, good job by Linsley. TJ Lane gets a good block, but the center gets out there and leads it. That is what gives the running back so much run to Eddie Lacy to run the football. But you're right, Brandon Browner against Jordy Nelson, Darrelle Revis against Randall Cobb.
First 2 plays went for 12 yards each, and Lacy's got another big run inside the 30 and down to the 22. Finally tripped up by McCourty as he uses that left side of Bakhtiari and sitting for 25.
Once again, they get him flowing to the right side of the defense, and Linsley gets the block. And Eddie Lacy, how long does he go before anybody touches him to the safety, Devin McCourty?
3 big plays to open the game. All for over 10 yards. And it's Lacy again. This time only a couple.
Well, we talk so much about the passing game. Got to be alert. The Green Bay Packers run the football well.
We want to welcome most of the nation to Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The Packers taking the opening kickoff and have run 4 plays to this point, already advancing to the New England 21. Jim Nantz along with Phil Simms and Tracy Wolfson. Here's Aaron Rodgers, second throw of the game, and he was looking in the direction of Davante Adams.
Now the Green Bay Packers love to throw a lot of short passes out by the sideline, so that was a good time to try a little double move, a quick move by Adams to go up the sideline, but the coverage was there, nobody open.
Eddie Lacy with a couple of big carries to get the Packers down to this point. 3 carries for Lacy in all for 39 yards. But now it's a 3rd and 8 as Brady waits his turn now to take the field for the first time. Rodgers look right, left, looking for options, all kinds of time. Fires it down the field, and it's tipped around and incomplete, but a flag is out. Adams had a play on it. Then off the rebound, Cobb looked like he could possibly also make an attempt. Logan Ryan helped break it apart, but the flag has got to be sorted out by Ed Hockley.
Before the pass was thrown, holding defense number 39. 5-yard penalty and automatic first down.
It's a Brandon Browner on the hold. And the biggest key for this New England defense, yeah, they got to stop the run. We've seen that early. But can you keep Aaron Rodgers in the pocket? They did that time. But all that extra time, the receivers are very good at adapting to routes. New England lucky that wasn't a touchdown throw.
Jim Nance and Phil Simms and Tracy Wolfson. I'd like to welcome now those of you who saw the Chargers win at Baltimore with that winning touchdown pass in the final minute from Rivers to Royal. And the Chargers win that game, welcoming that audience now here to Green Bay, where the Packers have taken the opening drive and just been the beneficiaries of a holding call against the New England defense to keep this drive going. But this is some matchup here. Brady and Rodgers for the first time starting against one another. Then you have the duo of Revis and Browner, and what will they do with Nelson and Cobb? And then, of course, you've got a pair of coaches, each of whom have won Super Bowls.
Jim, I think when you look at this opening drive, it opens your eyes up. The pass coverage very focused on the wide receivers. Two guys on Jordy Nelson. Does that leave enough defenders to stop the run? One of the reasons why they got down the field so quickly with Eddie Lacy. Two receivers in the backfield.
And it's Cobb getting the handle. And he's down to the 14. They've gotten to this point with only one completion. Rodgers' throw on the first play of the game for 12 yards. But Eddie Lacy rushing it 3 times for 39.
Well, that was interesting, though, wasn't it? A little zone read look, and you had Jared Boykin and Randall Cobb in the backfield. I would think there's a few more plays coming off that look. Hand it off. Rodgers could run it. He could give it to or flip it to a receiver, or even a pass by a receiver out of their formation.
On 2nd and 8, they give it to Lacy. He tried to get out of an ankle tackle, but is decked at the line of scrimmage by Alan Branch.
Yeah, that time Alan Branch and Vince Wilfork kind of getting into the swing of the game. Just bottled everything up and nowhere to run that football.
Alan Branch signed in the middle of the season. There's Vince Wilfork.
Yeah, Vince Wilfork, yeah, I tell you, as the year has gone along, he has played better and better. As you look at him, I think he's a cold weather looking kind of guy, and that's when he plays his best.
3rd and 8 for the Packers from the New England 14. Rodgers to the end zone and incomplete. That was intended for Adams.
Pretty interesting. A couple times they've thrown it down the field. Another little move by Davante Adams on the outside. And what do you do to a great quarterback? You'd like to make him hurry up his throws, and that was good. Chris Jones gets the penetration. Oh, it's a beautiful move. But Aaron Rodgers didn't have enough time to just float that football in there perfectly. Chris Jones stopped the touchdown.
Logan Ryan was the defender on Adams, and here's the field goal try by Crosby right down the middle. 32 yards. Aaron Rodgers getting a look at the coverages he faced on that first series. Again, as you mentioned, never targeted Cobb nor Nelson. Completed one pass, the first pass of the game is a little short pass to Cobb out of the backfield. Here's Amendola on the return for New England. He had a good one last week of 81 yards in the game against Detroit. And he's out to about the 26. Here comes Tom Brady. Last year, 8 years ago, when he threw 4 touchdowns in a 35-0 New England win.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. Walmart. Make walmart.com your only place to shop on Cyber Monday. And by Verizon XLTE on America's largest, most reliable 4G LTE network.
The temperature has been dropping here since 9 o'clock this morning when it was high of 34. It should be close to 10 by the end of the game. Brandon Bolden is in the backfield along with Shane Vereen as Brady comes out throwing to LaFell. Brandon LaFell has a 13-yard pickup for New England on its first play of the game. Tom Brady these last 7 weeks in this win streak absolutely sensational again. 22 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions. They've beaten division leaders the last 3 weeks. All runaway wins, and like Green Bay, they start a rookie center in Stork. Gronkowski healthy and back to his old ways. And this is Blunt getting the carry. And LeGarrette Blunt still fighting for it. Out near the 44. They'll give him 5. Dom Capers' defense has had a sack in 32 consecutive games. That's the longest stretch in the league. They've also had a takeaway in 20 straight games. That also is the longest active streak in the league. Hyde should be seeing a lot of Gronkowski today. Shane Vereen now lined up behind Brady on 2nd and 4. And it goes to Vereen. It was not sideways on the hit. And that's Barrington.
Well, they're going to test this run defense of the Green Bay Packers. There's no doubt about it. They're the 30th in the league against the run. But since they put Clay Matthews back as a middle linebacker in a lot of running situations, the defense has gotten much better versus the run. Here in the last 3 weeks, when Clay Matthews is middle linebacker, very good.
And it's Blunt on 3rd and 2 with a flag out. He is stopped by Barrington again, who plugged the gap. Blunt was trying to run behind his fullback, James Devlin. And the Packers defense was wise to it, but we'll check Ed Hockley's call. Brady's already walked to the far sideline.
Yeah, he heard what they were saying. He immediately turned and ran to the sideline.
Illegal shift by the offense. All 11 players were not set for a second. The penalty is declined. Brings up 4th down.
Yeah, what they did, which we see New England do all the time, Jim, they tried to go with the hurry up, run that off-tackle play. We see him run it outside. Green Bay was ready for it, and the penalty, they were not set long enough before the football was snapped.
And let's watch this snap by Rob Ninkovich, again called into emergency duty for Danny Aiken, who's out because of a concussion suffered last week. And this bounces around inside the 15, and then it's handled by the Packer returner Hyde, and it goes out of bounds.
It's okay. New England touched the ball, so he had a free play, and he tried to take advantage of it.
Micah Hyde, who had a punt return on this field against Philadelphia just a couple of weeks ago. Green Bay will take over at about the 16. And the perfect gift for the sports fan on your gift list. Beat the crowds and save 10% when you shop CBS Sports. Take advantage of this offer now, cbssports.com/holiday.
Well, as you look out there, I don't see any skid marks or divots so far. New England very conscious of the field, that teams come up here and slip and fall everywhere. Looks like the field's in great condition.
At the tight end, Wallace directly in front of Rodgers, who play action fakes, goes it down the field, and Cobb cannot quite reel it in. He had separation.
Yeah, they were all over the blitz that time by New England. They had Quarles, the tight end, in the backfield, and did an excellent job of giving Aaron Rodgers extra time to throw the football. And just a little too strong with a couple passes now. Drop them in there, could have had some big gains. But when you blitz, you get extra time to throw it. Somebody can usually find a way to get open.
Hey, Rex! Yeah. 319! 319 up!
2nd and 10. The pressure, and the Patriots get to Rodgers. It's Akeem Ayers with a flag out. This Akeem Ayers has been some pickup, traded by Tennessee to New England in the middle of the season.
Illegal use of the hands of the defense. Number 39. 5-yard penalty from the previous spot. Automatic 1st down.
Boy, Brandon Browner, his forte and why he is a good corner is being physical on the outside. This is the 2nd time he's been called But Akeem Ayers, you said it, picked up from Tennessee, speed, really giving them an outside pass rusher they need since Chandler Jones is hurt.
It's sack off the board, and it's Lacy for a yard. That's it. Eddie Lacy coming off a 100-yard performance last week on the ground at Minnesota, and he's off to a good start here.
Well, he's off to a good start. And I'll tell you the other guy, Corey Linsley. We always talk about quarterbacks and running backs, but the center for Green Bay, 2 big blocks, allowed Eddie Lacy to pick up those yards and it led him to a field goal.
Well, you're talking about Linsley, drafted in the 5th round out of Ohio State, their center. It's not something they've always done here is go out and draft a true center. They've drafted a lot of tackles and converted them. Good ball handling here by Rodgers. Wanted the long option, and now he's going to throw on the run, and it is caught by Adams. Gain of 33.
Aaron Rodgers is looking right. You watch the receivers go down the field all over. Is anybody open? Adams to the top of your screen, but the extra time, he keeps it alive. That's all we hear from defensive backs, even last night, talking to Brandon Browner. Be ready for the quarterback to move and adjust to the wide receivers. Hard to do, especially with a guy throwing it like Aaron Rodgers.
Now from the Patriots 43 on first down. Rodgers pass, pulled down, and a catch. Gain of 12, and it's Adams again.
What a catch is right. Aaron Rodgers throws it high. It's a slant route or an in cut. They love these, and that's a clean hit by Dante Hightower. Shoulder to the chest. Adams, we saw him in preseason, really not sure of how to adapt to the NFL game at wide receiver, but boy, is he making steady progress, and you can tell it, his presence on the field, and we've seen it here early with a couple of good catches.
So he was dazed on the hit. He goes out. Boykin comes in. 1st and 10. Toss. Lacy. Stiff arm, but doubled up. Gain of 2. Hit by Ryan and Chung. You talk about Aaron Rodgers. I was mentioning it's been 2 years since he last threw a pick at home. Look at his career touchdown to interception ratio. Best of all time, and Brady is second.
Yep, how about that? You know, they both learn to play. They go to the edge where they can use their skills, but they never take unnecessary chances. And Aaron Rodgers, accurate thrower, and if he doesn't like what he sees, he just moves around.
2nd and 8. Looking to throw again. Dangerous on the run. Flags down. Probably going to be a call against Bulaga, the right tackle of the Patriots.
You know, you rush 3 guys against Aaron Rodgers, I think you're asking for trouble. Easy for me to say up here, but he knows it's a 3-man rush. He knows he has extra time, Jim, and you noticed he just watched the rushers there.
Holding offense, number 75, 10-yard penalty, repeat 2nd down.
And I'm sure the hold comes because Aaron Rodgers broke outside the pocket, and of course the offensive linemen do not know. 75. When he breaks out, oh, what's happening? That's when he grabs him. It's a good acting job that time, I thought, by Chris Jones. And you think he just felt the hold and went right to the ground.
Of course, Chris Jones already one time knocked Rodgers to the ground.
But you know, does that make sense? You rush 3 rushers against these veteran, accomplished, talented quarterbacks. They know it right away, and they're going to use the extra time to make you pay for it.
Starks is the running back on 2nd and 18. Now he's going to run with it. Slides about a yard short of the first.
There it was. He looked down the field, didn't like the crosser. He probably could have completed it. Watch the crosser come across the field. Could have stuck it in there. Nope. Why take a chance when you can do this? And when you play this man coverage, boy, look at Revis all over Randall Cobb. But when you play this type of defense, it's going to allow the quarterback to run.
You saw Collins knock down Nelson after Browner had handed him off on the coverage. It's 3rd and 1. That was a 17-yard scramble by Rodgers.
Does New England have too many people?
Twelve men in the field. Defense. 5-yard penalty results in the first down.
Snap was imminent, and that's why they call the penalty before the play or before the ball is snapped. trying to count them as I look down there, Jim. Nobody has run off the field.
Still got the same group of New England defenders out there. Belichick is very unhappy with that call. This is the third penalty on the Patriots defense.
It's third down.
Looks like Belichick may have won his appeal.
Here we go. Count them out. There's 11 right before the football was snapped. So that's a good reversal by Ed Hockley and his crew.
So it brings back 3rd and 1.
Well, let's be honest. Some of these guys are so big they look like two people when they bend over and put their hand on the ground.
Don't push! Don't push!
It's a possible 4-down situation here. 3rd and short.
Straight up! Ready, ready!
Lacy on the second effort. He was hit, bounced off of it, picked up 4.
You know, when you look at Eddie Lacy, he's everything you want in an NFL running back. You don't have to block him perfectly. Nice job by TJ Lane getting the block because his power, his vision. I've watched him many games this year. Jim, I'll tell you, he never goes to the wrong place to run the football. Wherever you block him, he'll go behind those blocks and pick up yards. Physical and shifty for a big man, can really move those feet.
Adams back in, top of the screen. Running play. Lacy. 2 more into the arms of Hightower. Tonight after 60 minutes, Téa Leoni stars in the new hit drama Madam Secretary on America's #1 network, CBS.
Well, they're running the football well. The one thing I haven't seen so far is these wide receivers. Cobb, he has not shaken Darrelle Revis and Jordy Nelson. Those two guys yet not into this game.
319! 319 up!
2nd and 9. Caught by Adams, but out of bounds.
Logan Ryan really doing a good job on the outside. 1 foot, second's going to come down out of bounds. It's a beautiful throw by Aaron Rodgers, but again, they double teamed Jordy Nelson, Darrelle Revis on Randall Cobb, and they're forcing the Packers, hey, you're going to beat us throwing the football to Adams or to the tight end, Andrew Corliss.
And he's targeted Adams a bunch of times. Nelson not once to this point. Cobb once. 3rd and 9. This is the 18th play of the game run by the Packers versus only 4 by New England. Again, all kinds of time. Rodgers over the top of Cobb and incomplete. Covered by Revis.
Protection is great. He's getting extra time, and they just cannot shake away. Darrelle Revis, look, this, you know, you always say these things on telecast. He's the best corner in the National Football League. When you watch all of his plays, it's hard to find when the wide receiver just beats him cleanly and the quarterback makes the play.
It'll be a 35-yard Crosby field goal attempt. Maske the hold. And again, the kick is good. 2 trips to the red zone for the Packers and 2 field goals. 6-0 Green Bay.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Fidelity Investments. Tap into the full power of your Fidelity Green Line. And by Toyota. Let's go places.
Aerial coverage of today's game is provided by MetLife as you look down at historic Lambeau Field. Curly Lambeau once had 14 consecutive winning seasons. Belichick has 14 now. Now, look at Aaron Rodgers, who's been handing it off with his right hand.
Noticed it the last drive, and boy, I can see why. That's just not a little scuff. That's a lot of blood for.
And there is a mistake by Crosby, kicking it out of bounds.
The ball was illegally kicked out of bounds. It will be placed at the 40-yard line. First down.
So the Patriots have an excellent starting position at the 40.
Watching the NFL on CBS.
We have found what happened to Aaron Rodgers' left hand. Was stepped on by Jamie Collins on that 17-yard scramble.
Well, you see the blood on his hand. Looks, you can't tell if it's swollen. I'm not going to say that, but it did make him hand the football off only with his right hand, which is dangerous.
Brady across the middle, ball in the air and incomplete. Trying to get it in there to LaFell. A reminder, Thursday night football. Tony Romo and the Cowboys. This will be a big game for them to try to bounce back after the loss on Thanksgiving Day to the Eagles, taking on Matt Forte and the Bears from Soldier Field. We'll see you Thursday night. Dallas, Chicago.
Looking forward to that last play. Sam Shield. You got to be always alert. Play actions, quick throws over the middle, and he was all over LaFell.
Two tight ends, Wright and Gronkowski. Gronkowski top of the screen. 2nd and 10. And he gets it over to Gronk for a gain of 4. And let's go down to Tracy Wolfson.
Well, thanks, Jim. I've been watching Aaron Rodgers, and I was just told by officials it is just a scrape on the hand. There is no bandage as of now going on it, but he certainly looked to be in a little bit of pain down there. It is certainly something to watch, Jim.
Yeah, he's a guy too, Jim. You think, well, why didn't he put a bandage on and throw a glove over it? Well, I think he's such a field player, which he talks about with the football. When he put a glove on, I think that would really disrupt how he throws the football and how he feels about it.
It's 3rd and 5. In the pocket, Edelman unable to get away from Williams, and it'll be 4th and 1. What a tackle by Williams.
Tramon Williams all over Gronkowski outside, and they do this. It's great. They stack the receivers to back you off. He reads it, comes up, and makes the tackle.
And New England has sent out the punting unit.
Tramon Williams, really an excellent corner. You got to be careful. He can read the quarterback, and he is not afraid to make big plays or go for interceptions.
Ninkovich, that one a little bit low, but a whistle first.
There is no foul on the play. There is no play. The officials were not in position when the ball was snapped.
Ed Hockley with the explanation. Now, Ninkovich has been a long snapper in high school, in college, at Purdue, even a little bit in the NFL. It's kind of how he came into the league with the Saints. A little bit down at Miami, and has occasionally done it the preseason for the Patriots. That one perfectly sent back to Ryan Allen. The punt bounding out of bounds at about the 15. 36-yard punt. And Brady's reaction after failing to pick up a first down on that series?
They get it out. You know, every once in a while during commercials, I put out a big yell up here, you know, get rid of the frustration.
You have a lot to be frustrated about, don't you?
I was waiting. But, you know, really an interesting start, though. You know, Green Bay's defense looks like they're ready for some of their core plays that the Patriots have. They've been aggressive. And now on the offensive side, can they find a way to get their two best pass receivers involved in this game? We've talked about it, but, you know, you can only look at your tight end and the rookie wide receiver Adams so much.
You saw Lacey on the bench, Starks in the backfield. And here's Starks' first handle. Tries to wiggle outside, and it's Collins who wraps him up and holds him to 2. Now, the Packers have been a first-half juggernaut at home. The last 4, we were here for this one, Minnesota, 28-0 at halftime, 28-3, 42-0 at halftime against Chicago, and 30-6 against Philadelphia.
319.
And they've been over 50 points in the last 2 home games total. Here's a 2nd and 8. Goes to Starks, and he does a good job of fighting for extra yardage. The ball squirted out after he was down. It'll be 3rd and about 2.
Well, I remember coming up here and doing a preseason game and Aaron Rodgers talking about how he was going to play this year. He was going to be quicker in his decisions. If he doesn't like it, he's not going to take hits. He's either going to move or throw it quickly to the running backs. And he's done that all year long. And as you look at that hand, this looks like something you'd see at Lambeau Field, right? All the great games that have been up here in tough conditions.
Third and 2. Floats this one over the top, and he's got Adams in stride. Ryan grabs hold of him, but it's another big gain by Green Bay. And for the third straight drive, they have advanced to the New England side of the field.
Well, they've tried it 3 times, and I like what they did here. Oh, another double move. That's the third double move Davante Adams has run outside against Logan Ryan. And, you know, now I can talk about it. I saw him working on this yesterday in practice, but that was really good. He was off the line of scrimmage, had time to make the move and not get hit.
It went for 45. Adams now has 90 yards in this first quarter. Down the field, Rodgers, and it is caught for a touchdown by Richard Rodgers, the rookie tight end out of Cal.
I think the first thing that I marvel about the play, the pump fake, he was going to throw it and held up. So you got to have one large pair of hands to hold on to that football as aggressively as he was getting ready to throw the football. And how about again, just flicks it out there right on target. Watch this pump fake. Whoa! Then just right over the top, perfect touch. So there's your answer. Rodgers, Adams. They're making them go to those matchups, and they got it done on that drive.
That is called Rodgers to Rodgers.
There you go.
Roger that. And that's 2 straight weeks. And Richard Rodgers has caught a touchdown. He had one up in Minnesota last week, his first career touchdown. But this one's of the long variety. 32 yards out. 4 plays, they drive down the field. Tonight on CBS, Simon Baker is back for the final season of The Mentalist. Tonight after Madam Secretary, only CBS. Just seconds to go here in the first quarter. The Packers have already put up 209 yards, and that is even without any yardage added to the cause by Cobb or Nelson.
Yeah, well, you know, they told us they loved their matchups, and I think they knew, or they told us too, they were expecting exactly what they're getting on the defensive side. How about that?
Amendola takes it up to 10. And is tackled at about the 28 by Morgan Burnett. Let's go back down to Tracy.
Well, thanks, Jim. We talked about the cold temperatures today. Both of these quarterbacks very good in this weather, but both prepared differently. I spoke with Tom Brady. He said it's all about keeping that right hand warm. As for Aaron Rodgers, he told me he likes the cold weather. He likes the grip on a very hard, inflated football. He says he keeps his hands warm with 4 or 5 warmers, but it's all about his feet. 2 pairs of socks and a warmer inside. That's what I'm doing. I'll let you know how it works.
That's right. Tracy's experimenting to tell us how the quarterback feels. She put all those hand warmers in her feet today.
Good day to do that.
It is.
First and 10 on the last play of the quarter, and it's Blunt for 3. 32 total yards by the Patriots in that first quarter. This is the kind of start New England feared. 13-0 Green Bay after 1. We'll return after these messages. You're watching the NFL on CBS. That first quarter performance in with the other 4 we talked about. Looking at first half performances overall for Green Bay. Now through its last 5 home games, 79-0.
In the first quarter, not even a half.
Yep.
So that just shows you they get off the fast starts. They put you under pressure, and it just takes pressure off your defense where they can really fly around.
2nd and 7. Matthews trying to come around the edge, and Brady hits Gronkowski for New England's biggest play as he fights ahead to the Green Bay side of the field near the 42.
Well, some of those heat packs, good play action fake, and Gronkowski comes all the way across the field. Perfect throw. Really, as we said, this offense, good job. Watch Tom Brady step up just before it gets there. But Gronkowski, such a tough matchup. There's really nobody you can put on him one-on-one and say, hey, we feel good about it, because he's athletic and he's extremely big.
First snap in Packer territory after a 29-yard gain. Brady steps up away from the heat and has an open man. It's Home and now with Newey. And how about the feet? Did he get him down?
Looked like he did from way up here. Yes, he gets him in.
24-yard gain.
Nice job again. Tom Brady, excellent in the pocket. We talked about it last night. He feels like he's faster and quicker than he's ever been in his career. And I tell you, it's not an overstatement. He moves around, actually breaks out of the pocket, and has made some excellent throws on the run here of late.
Brandon Bolden is the running back. We have not seen Jonas Gray to this point. It's Bolden on the carry. And Bolden, good power run by Bolden. His longest run of the season, running behind Ryan Wendell for about 11.
Watch the right guard pull around, and you can hear it. Just two heads butting, and Barrington is frozen, and Bolden makes a good run.
First and goal to go.
Oh, Shields, I couldn't
Yeah,
see
Shields
behind
is
it.
down. Hidden by a couple of his fellow defenders. Sam Shields.
Yeah, I saw him in the play before. He goes in there. Well, he does a good job of getting his head in front of the runner, but that knee hit his helmet.
Brady and Gronk having a little exchange. They'd like to have another little connection here in a moment. Not so tough in this red zone.
Yeah, size is a big reason inside the 10-yard line where you can score. And Gronkowski, you can tell, 100% healthy over the injuries and has been dynamic the last 6 or 7 weeks.
House comes in for Shields in the secondary for Green Bay. First and goal, and Bolden. Bolden gets free and into the end zone. Brandon Bolden, touchdown New England.
Well, you said it right. You never know who they're going to put in the backfield. And we're thinking it's going to be Jonas Gray, Blunt. Bolden comes. This is excellent running. And the blocking that time, Wendell again. The right guard springs him free for the touchdown.
Brandon Bolden, first touchdown of the season. Couple of strong carries by Bolden. 1 for 12, and then the last one from 6 yards out. They go 73 yards in 2 minutes. Big shutout in the first quarter. That was the first time in 24 quarters the Patriots had not scored in a quarter, but here they come back.
5 letters here for everybody out there in Packerland. RELAX. Relax.
That is classic Belichick right there after the Kansas City game. And
Yes.
he was asked a question about the quarterback position and what to do with Brady. And it's just classic. How about a little RESPECT? That's Harris. It was the end of the world, though, for these teams early in the year if you started listening to some of the pundits out there.
Well, listen, that's what we're in. It's every week. We're a prisoner of the moment.
Yep.
And since those two things happened, look what they've both done. It's just outstanding. The yards per game, the points, the turnover margin. But we jump to too many conclusions very fast. We all do it. I'm guilty of it. And, you know, it's a long season. We were coming up with all these scenarios in week 3 and week 4.
We 19! We 19!
His handoff to Lacy. Go for this drive, and Collins is there to meet him after a 3-yard run.
Well, we'll see. You talk about Devontae Adams on the outside going against Logan Ryan. The right side, nobody's open, so what do? They go to the rookie, top of the screen, a little double move, and could have been called pass interference. So they stack the receivers to get him away from the contact, and that was just enough to let him get by, and Aaron Rodgers put it on the money.
And again, Adams with 3 catches for 90 yards.
That's what you do. If you the contact the line of scrimmage, change the formations, stack the receivers, or put them in motion.
2nd and 7. Then Lacy drives ahead for another 3. Let's go back down to Tracy.
Well, thanks, Jim. We saw Packers cornerback Sam Shields take a hit earlier. He was taken to the locker room. He is being evaluated for a concussion. Jim?
Sam Shields, his head. He went in there and led with the head when he tried to go low and tackle Brandon Bolden. So he'll go through the protocol. And House was the one who replaced him on that next play.
I think we got to find out. Here's a little bunch group the top of the screen trying to maybe free Jordy Nelson or Randall Cobb.
And Cobb is in the backfield next to Rodgers on 3rd and 5. Cobb with a Ninkovich matchup, and he's open. And Cobb has his first catch of the game. So they started him out in the backfield.
Yeah, always be on high alert with receivers in the backfield. He's going to go like this all the way down, and there's just nobody to run with him. You got Ninkovich because they're worried the inside guy gets picked because we have 3 wide receivers to the right, and it picks Logan Ryan. Ninkovich picks him up, but it's just too late. Good thought process. We saw it early. They put him in the backfield, saw what they wanted, and they dialed that play up and made it work.
For 33 yards. Again, 2 receivers in the backfield. Boykin along with Cobb. And it's over to Boykin. Actually might be ruled as a rush. Picks up about 6. Tonight, are you worried about your credit card information, that it might be stolen this holiday season? You ought to be. And 60 Minutes shows you why. Tonight, only CBS. That was ruled a pass and a gain of 6.
Yeah, some unique looks. Mike McCarthy spent this week. They're giving there's Cobb in the backfield again.
Plus Lacy appeared to be dinged a couple of plays ago, has not returned. 2nd and 4. That's Cobb. Right there is Arrington. Finally, Hightower comes over to help out and bring him down. Shy of the first.
Well, New England has big linebackers. We've talked about this many times. Jamie Collins, Dante Hightower, and you try to run. And I know it's only a 5 or 6 yard gain, but that's big. It keeps you in really good position to make these calls where run or pass is available to the offense.
And now Lacy's back in for a 3rd and 2 play.
There's the personnel on the right side of the screen. It's in there for Aaron Rodgers.
Rodgers still has it. Cobb now with his 3rd catch of the drive, picking up the first down.
I love what they do. You know, they have Randall Cobb here, and they got running backs and a tight end in the backfield. So you're trying to figure out who am I going to run with. Then the fake is just enough to give Randall Cobb that split second to get outside and pick up a big first down.
Back into the red zone are the Packers.
Green Bay can show you some very different formations in the backfield along with Aaron Rodgers.
First 2 trips inside the 20 resulted in field goals. First down, Lacy. Nice piece of tackling there by Akeem Ayers and a loss of a couple.
Patriots have been famous for a lot of things on the defensive side, but being very good in the red zone is one of their marks. That's Bill Belichick. Yeah, you can move the ball, but can you score? They've made the Packer kick 2 field goals, and see what happens here in this drive. Right now, Aaron Rodgers is loose. Mike McCarthy feels free. Everything is working.
Rodgers has hit his last 7 passes. Bottom of the screen now, you got Browner on Adams. He's going to the other side to the end zone, and no flag as Nelson got tangled up with Revis.
Well, what happened? Darrelle Revis went to the top of the screen because of the formation. It did look like a lot of contact. Oh, Revis is looking back for the football, so that's a good no call in my opinion. fact, Jordy Nelson, good job by him being aggressive, trying to get over the top. But Bill Belichick said it that Darrelle Revis has unique quality to always get in the way of the receiver and kind of run the route for him, and that was a good example that time.
That's the first time Nelson's been targeted today. 3rd and 12 from the 20. Middle of the field, Cobb, and he is about a half-yard shy of the first.
Another little unique way of doing it. They put him in motion, and all the time, defenders think when you go in motion, you're going to break out. He stopped and came back inside, and I think it was Kyle Arrington who couldn't get there quick enough.
So it looks to be about a half-yard shy of the first, 4th and a foot, and they brought Lacy back onto the field. Rodgers is trying to hurry to the line. And they're going to have a measurement now, as it turns out.
Pretty good spot. I thought it was maybe even a little short of where that football is. So it'll be interesting. 13-7. Well, you're not going to have to make that decision, I don't think.
That is a first down.
I would think if they were short, I think they would have gone for it.
You think it was a generous spot?
I did. They marked it all the way to the 8-yard line. I thought he was about a half a yard. Let's see where you think he goes down. Well, it's so close. I don't know if it's, I would not challenge, because when it's that close, usually they're not going to reward you with 1 foot unless it's clear by the markings on the field.
Rodgers already over 200 yards passing. A quarter and a half into this game.
319!
Cobb has picked up 3 first downs on 3rd down receptions. And Cobb adds 2 more to the cause. Lacy does.
Now, it's interesting. Look at all those numbers by Green Bay and Jim. Jordy Nelson not involved, and he's been the mainstay, the driving force, along with Aaron Rodgers in this pass offense. So that just shows you they got depth. And they're not just having one single thought that we got to throw it to Jordy Nelson.
Right, spread everybody out on 2nd and goal.
Help! Help! 319! 319 up!
Rodgers to Nelson, incomplete, knocked down by Revis.
You know, by putting Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb in the slots, there's Jordy Nelson going to fake outside. Boy, Darrelle Revis didn't even think of going for it, the fake. It kind of makes Brandon Browner, I don't know if you want Brandon Browner trying to cover one of these guys from the slot formation so they can get some matchups they like.
Rodgers, you see in the background, already having caught a touchdown. He's wide to the right, 3rd and goal. Nelson in the slot to the right, Cobb slot left.
319! 319 up!
Here comes pressure. Rodgers is caught. Hightower. And a loss of 9.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Hightower in the run game, playing inside, number 54 on the blitz, and he has been excellent at that. He caught him off guard. Now let's watch to the right. Nobody's open. Jordy Nelson covered. Tight ends covered. Hightower's turned into a really good blitzer.
And now Crosby from 33. His 3rd field goal of the game. 16-7, Packers inside 6 minutes to go, first half.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Domino's. Visit Domino's.com. Bose, official sound of the NFL. And by Honda, where you can get great deals during Happy Honda Days.
Coming up, the Verizon halftime report with JB, Tony, Bart, Boomer, and Coach Coward. All the latest scores and highlights, and a preview of the Thursday night game on NFL Network, Dallas and Chicago. That's coming up on the Verizon halftime report.
First half dominated by Green Bay, but you got to look up there if you're New England and go 16-7. That's okay.
Line drive kick, and Amendola takes a knee. Tom Brady drove him down the field for a touchdown the last time he was out there. NFL Play 60 encourages kids to come out and play for 60 minutes a day. To learn how and to find great play ideas, visit NFLrush.com/play60. New England would like to drive 80. Down 16-7. Matthews again coming around from the far side. Ball was actually touched by Matthews as it was released.
Well, they had Marcus Cannon, an offensive lineman, in there to help with protection, and he just can't get wide enough. And Clay Matthews, how's that for turning the corner tightly and still getting a hand on the football? You know, a lot of teams do that now. They bring in an extra lineman to make him a tight end so the quarterback can have extra time to throw it down the field. Clay Matthews that time took advantage of it.
There he is eyeing Brady and checking the formation. 2nd and 10. And that's Wright, Tim Wright, with the catch for the first down.
Good job by Tom Brady standing in there. Here comes the blitz. Watch this move. Whoops. And they miss completely. Tom Brady does a really good job falling backwards and making the throw.
A gain of 12 to Tim Wright, who is starting to get more comfortable by the week in this New England offense.
Well, he's tall, can run fast, played wide receiver some in college.
First down from the 32. Brady looking down the field, and he's hit again as the pass is incomplete. Morgan Burnett had pressure on Brady. As you look at the ownership of the New England Patriots, Robert Kraft, Jonathan Kraft, and they're excited about their soccer team, the Revolution, advancing to the MLS Cup final next week and to play either Los Angeles or Seattle. They're going to double dip next week when they go for the title in the afternoon, and wherever that game will be, LA or Seattle, is Revolution. Then they'll be down at San Diego for the night game next Sunday. Going to go to both. 2nd and 10. Edelman, wide receiver screen, and good yardage out to the 49. Sebastian Vollmer helped spring him for 16.
You said it, and you need athletic tackles to run these plays. Watch him get outside and just duck for cover, because there's nothing you can do, and gets his hands on Tramon Williams and knocks him down. But the quick screen game by the Patriots, as good as anybody in the NFL when it comes to those types of plays.
Back over to Edelman, who's able to pick it up before it hits the ground.
Nice catch.
Gain of 5. We were talking about that end-of-the-world mentality. I'm starting to hear from everybody about the Cowboys now after Thanksgiving Day. They've long forgotten what they did 4 days before that at New York against the Giants.
Well, you know, they did play a pretty good team Thanksgiving night.
Yeah.
Philadelphia Eagles. And look, going to Soldier Field, cold, grass, different atmosphere. I think it's going to be a tight, hard-fought game.
2nd and 5. And Brady's got an open man. It's Perrine left open. Matthews grabs him by the jersey, helps sling him down, but it's a gain of 27.
I don't know how he found him. He's looking down the middle of the field, but all I can say is Tom Brady does this a lot. Down the sideline goes Vereen, and that's what happened. Clay Matthews is going to cover him and is following the eyes of the quarterback. And Tom Brady, I saw it last week about 3 or 4 times against Detroit. They made a mistake. He went to the guy that made a mistake every time.
Blunt is the running back. And Blunt's got a 5-yard, maybe 6-yard gain. We still have not seen Jonas Gray.
I don't know what to say.
Well, you know, 201 yards and 4 touchdowns just a couple of weeks ago. Talk about long forgotten.
Well, listen, you make a mistake with this team, and you know, that's just the way they run it. It's very disciplined, and you move to the back of the line, you work hard, and hope you get one more chance.
Double tight information for the Patriots. 14 touchdowns, their last 16 trips inside the red zone. Back over to Edelman. Play that just worked for him. This time, Williams is there to hold on by the ankle. We got a flag down. Play picked up about 3.
Really good drive by the Patriots. Keeps Aaron Rodgers on the sideline. Gives their defense a rest. Everything you want, and taking the time off the clock.
There was no foul for offensive pass interference on the play. The block was within a yard of the line. 3rd down.
There you go. When you throw those screens, you can block the defenders as long as they're within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage. Saw San Diego win a game today doing that against Baltimore.
Yeah, from a yard out. Eddie Royal had help. There's the block by LaFell. Pick up the flag. It's a 3rd and 3. Brady's got his first down with Gronkowski, who's still going. Gronkowski stopped at the 2.
Wow. How about that, though? Not many tight ends can split out, make that catch, and do what he just did.
Look at Gronkowski. First and goal to go. Play before the 2-minute warning. Rob Gronkowski exerting his will and power against that Patriot defense, setting up New England first and goal at the 2.
30 yards for an 11-yard gain.
Flags are out.
Marcus Cannon.
False start, offense number 61.
That changes things.
5-yard
Changes
penalty.
everything. You know,
It's
that
first
last
down.
play, just real quickly, it was perfect for Gronkowski. He ran in to the receiver, or the defender, Morgan Burnett, and picked up extra yards. It got open, and there was the false start by Marcus Cannon.
9 plays to get down here. 8 of them passes, and look at any means to try to bring him down. Whoops.
Better tighten that belt.
Yeah. This football thing doesn't work out. He could make one heck of a plumber based on what I'm seeing here.
Just got nothing to say to that.
First and goal, back up at the 7. And a timeout on the field. Called by New England. Verizon halftime report. New England, the top scoring team in the last 2 minutes of the first half. Looking to score here again. First and goal at the 7. Brady goes to the end zone, and it's incomplete. And again, at the last second, there were Packer defenders closing in on him.
Great job of feeling the pressure. I thought Clay Matthews, once again, top of the screen, coming all the way around. No, he doesn't get there. I thought he got really close. That's Mike Daniels putting the pressure on. Well, the one thing when you watch Tom Brady, not a lot of zone coverage against him so far, because he'll just carve that up. But he can go from one side of the field to the other, look at his receivers as fast as any QB in the league.
Second and goal, Vereen gets the handoff. Vereen is swapped at the 4 by Barrington. It'll bring up 3rd and goal from the 4.
Well, this will be a huge letdown for New England if they don't score because of that false start. But when they're down in here, they have so many plays at their disposal. They have formations and movement. And, of course, they got number 87 who can clear room for himself, and that's Gronkowski.
They split out Vereen. Now he shifts back alongside Brady. And there's a flag out.
Neutral zone infraction defense. Half the distance to the goal. It's 3rd down.
And it'll be 3rd and goal from the 2 now.
That was close. Yeah, Mike Daniels jumps in, and you got to be careful. Sometimes when they make those kind of moves forward, if they don't go into the neutral zone and you react, it'll be against the offense.
2 tight ends Wright and Gronkowski. Wright's been dangerous down in goal line situations.
Big guys on the left. You can push off and get a little space.
3rd and goal, and Brady fires it to the end zone, and he's got the touchdown. Touchdown, New England, Brandon LaFell.
Never looked to his left, went right the whole time, and LaFell won the matchup against Williams. And Tom Brady, nice fake inside, creates space. That was an excellent route by Brandon LaFell. Took it up the field, broke out. They threw a rocket out there to make sure he caught it.
Brandon LaFell, who's loving his time now in New England, signed as a free agent in the offseason by way of Carolina. Took him a little while to go through camp, and the first couple of weeks of the season, he felt to earn Tom Brady's trust. But ever since about week 4, they have been in sync. And they were on this occasion. 16-14, Packers.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by The Interview, starring James Franco and Seth Rogen, in theaters this Christmas. And by Stella Artois. She is a thing of beauty.
We are back at Lambeau Field. A couple of guys who grew up in Northern California, grew up about 190 miles apart. Both raised as big 49er fans, putting up the kind of performance you would have expected. First time they meet.
Yeah, California guys playing in the, in the part of the country where there's a lot of cold weather, but they have all the attributes to make them survive. Big hands, long arms, help to throw the football very well in these kind of conditions.
It's Harris going to bring it out from 2 deep, and he's out to about the 20. We'll see what Green Bay can do here. 2 timeouts and 1 minute and 5 seconds. How about Revis in the first half, Phil?
Well, it's everything that we expect from him. He just very seldom loses one-on-ones. How about this against Randall Cobb? Runs the route for him, nowhere to throw. Then down the field against Jordy Nelson, once again all over it. Watch how quick he diagnosed that route. Again, Aaron Rodgers smart, throwing the football where Darrelle Revis cannot pick it off.
Got a Packer injured on the kick return, Jamari Lattimore. He's getting some attention. Backup linebacker for Green Bay. We'll step aside. I'm actually going to help Lattimore, take him directly to the locker room with assistance. Okay, what are you looking for out of Green Bay here in the last minute and 5 seconds in the first half?
Well, when I look at Green Bay, of course, the big thing is Aaron Rodgers, the defense. You can't let him move around. When he moves around, the receivers are good enough to break away and give big plays. I thought they might use a spy every once in a while against Aaron Rodgers. If he moves, the spy can attack him.
Rodgers in the pocket, wings it, incomplete.
What coverage down the field, and they haven't stopped them from scoring, Jim, but they have held up. The big key is those 3 field goals.
The Packers in the red zone have run 9 plays today and have lost a total of 4 yards, having to settle all 3 trips into the red zone for field goals.
They've caught him with some unique plays. Aaron Rodgers moving and making, of course, some great throws, but they haven't shown that they can beat this one-on-one coverage consistently.
Their touchdown came from 32 yards out to Richard Rodgers, as now rolling out Aaron Rodgers has Starks for the first down out at the 48-yard line, and they hurry to the line.
This is the factor when New England goes in at halftime. They got to figure out what to do about the quarterback moving so much. How about that throw on the run, on the line, and on target?
Another gain of 28. And to the sideline to Nelson, who has his first catch of the game in a game of 9.
It was against Patrick Chung. You play off, he's going to take advantage of it. Let's watch what happens. He's running, and that's a good day. I think that was part of the route. And he got what he wanted. Ninkovich one-on-one with the running back, and just, like we said, excellent throw on the run.
It's a 2nd and 2 now with 30 seconds to go. Still holding on to the 2 timeouts.
319! 319 up!
Steps back, away from the heat. On the run again, incomplete. As Rivas jumped in front of Nelson.
Gosh, what a play. I mean, Jim, we've done some games where we've had teams that just played New England, and we watched Darrelle Revis, and you see this so much. Little push off, change direction. And to make those moves, Bill Belichick talked about Darrelle Revis last night and said, for a big guy, which he is, pretty thick for a corner, can change direction so fast.
5 throws have been targeted in the direction of Rivas. No completions. And he has to take a timeout as the play clock was about to expire.
Worried about the blitz. Good timeout.
3rd and 2 coming up out of the timeout. Okay, 23 seconds to go. Packers again, 1 timeout remaining. Crosby's career long is 58. Needing 2 for the first. Rodgers has Nelson in stride, and Jordy Nelson takes off to the 10, to the 5, reaches out for the pylon, and it's a touchdown, Green Bay.
Boy, did they use the timeout well. And they changed formations, and they got single coverage all over the field. That time, Jordy Nelson, good straight move across the field. Rivas gets blocked. And boy, Jim, we've seen it so many times.
Did he get in?
Oh, the football hit the pylon. That's going to be a touchdown. Man, when he decides to take off, well, that was close. He almost lost control of that football, but he has it.
He dragged his
review the ruling on the field that it was a touchdown.
As McCourty was trying to prevent him from getting to that very spot.
Well, there's the knee down. Couldn't tell before that.
Watch his left foot.
Still in bounds. I think it's going to stand.
Yeah, I do too.
The speed of Jordy Nelson, when he gets in the open field, he can open it up.
And if it stands, that's 45 yards on a 3rd and 2.
You know, I thought if they kept the back in the backfield, that was going to be a blitz by New England. They motion starts out of the backfield, and they changed what they were doing. They backed out the blitz, and it was man-to-man coverage, and it made it easy for Aaron Rodgers to decide where to go. And touches before I think the knee hits. The foot stayed in bounds.
Jordy Nelson had been contained for the first 29 minutes of this game.
The ruling on the field stands as called. It's a touchdown.
"81 yards, the Packers drive in 55 seconds.
Incredible. The movement of the quarterback just makes so many plays on his own, and sooner or later, guys like Jordy Nelson, they're going to break free and make a play, and he did there.
It gives Nelson 10 touchdowns on the season, which is the same number as his running mate Randall Cobb, and it's the first time in Green Bay's storied history it's had a set of receivers with 10 touchdowns or more in the same season. How did he get away from Rivas that time?
Well, good job. It looked like Rivas had outside technique, so it allows him to get free inside and go, and I don't know if he was expecting help from anybody inside, but it was not there.
Rivas hadn't given up anything all game long. And then just seconds before halftime, Nelson and the Packers beat him for a big one.
Yeah, I think I was interested there, guy let him get inside so easily. Usually he squares up on the wide receivers and has a little, let's just look at the whole top of the screen. Well, he is squared up. He opened up, and it's just Jordy Nelson with all that space. He just outran everybody across the field. And so many times when you talk about receivers, when they're tightly covered, it's who wins at the line of scrimmage, and that time, Jordy Nelson won.
And now the Packers will kick with 14 seconds to go. They'll put it on the ground. LaFell goes back. Can't get a handle on it. Amendola does. And he's tackled at about the 25 with 9 seconds to go.
Well, the quarterbacks, of course, that was a big build-up before the game, wasn't it? You know, all about these two quarterbacks, because we know they're going to the Hall of Fame. They're the best in football, and they didn't disappoint. They've been sharp. Maybe the word outstanding is the right word for both.
Rodgers with 282 yards in the first half and a pair of touchdowns.
Well, maybe great's the word for that first half.
In fact, the Packers had 5 drives in the half. They score on all 5. 2 touchdowns, 32 yards to Richard Rodgers, 45 yards to Jordy Nelson, and 3 Crosby field goals. 23-14 at halftime. We go down to Tracy with Coach McCarthy.
Thanks, Jim. Coach, 347 total yards in that first half. You expected this coverage. How have you been able to mix it up, though, to have success there?
Well, we're just running our offense. Aaron's doing a great job keeping us in clean plays. You know, we're just trying to spread the ball around and go through the reads.
How about defensively? What have you liked from your team in the first half?
Well, you know, the stops early were good. We got tackled better, and obviously Gronkowski's been a problem for us.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Jim?
All right, thank you, Tracy. New England will receive the second half kickoff. Through 2 quarters, Green Bay leads at 23-14. We're back with the Verizon halftime report after this message. And a word from your local station. You're watching the NFL on CBS. Well, we're 9 Sundays away from Super Bowl 49. A lot of talk this week all across all media about this being a possible Super Bowl preview. Let's take a look here at the Bose game changer. Rodgers to Nelson with 14 seconds to go in the half. McCourty tried to chase him down, and you see when Nelson getting the football, reaching it out for the pylon, that ball almost for a moment there looked like it was in danger of coming out, but that was a game changer right there. Got to ask you for the second half, because Green Bay run up and down the field, 347 yards in the first half. What will the Patriots need to do to slow them down?
Well, I think what we said before that last drive, which one of the main points of this game for the New England defense, keep Aaron Rodgers in the pocket. When he stays in there, at least you've got a chance. When he gets outside, his running ability, which we've seen a couple of runs, and the fact that he can throw the football so well on the run, that's what they got to stop. You either do it by put a spy on Aaron Rodgers, which I thought they would do, or you start blitzing. And if you start blitzing, man, that's dangerous.
The Crosby kick, not going to be returned, but we return to the field to Tracy Wolfson.
Well, thanks a lot, Jim. I had a chance to speak with Bill Belichick coming out of half. He didn't say much, but what he did say was similar to what you guys were talking about. He said we need to do a better job of containing Aaron Rodgers, and he said that first half was just full of mental errors. Jim?
Belichick's team taking on another division leader after the last 3 weeks, blowing out teams that were in first place in their divisions. Shields, remember, went out early in this game. House is in the secondary replacing him. And Brady play action on first down. Incomplete. Peppers out there in the open flat. And we do have another flag.
Holding, offense, number 63. half the distance to the goal, repeat first down.
Here are the first half numbers, staggering numbers when you look at total yards by the Packers, Phil.
Well, listen, they did the opening drive. It was a run game. Then they just opened it up. They had a couple double moves. They got Adams involved. Then they had the unique plays with Randall Cobb. And, of course, the backbreaker for the Patriots was Jordy Nelson on the last drive before half.
So it's a 1st and 20 off the holding call. Brady hit again. Ball tipped. Incomplete tip by Barrington, who's been in on a lot of plays. Very active, the second-year man from South Florida.
Very lucky. This was not a big mistake. Mike Daniels, 76. If he would not have thought it was a run, he would have hit Tom Brady and got the sack maybe, but the errant throw almost was intercepted. Packers couple times getting inside pressure. Mike Daniels has been the guy both times.
Second and 20. And he's got a gain of 6 to Edelman. And it's Barrington who brings him down.
Well, Barrington, as you look at this defense for the Green Bay Packers, Julius Peppers, they have so many guys. Mike Neal, Barrington, 6'4", 6'5", 260 pounds, and they all can run. And they can do everything. As you see Edelman walk up the field, they can pass rushers, linebackers. Makes them very versatile on the defensive side.
Aaron Dobson comes in for Edelman. A 3rd and 13. Amendola's on the field as well. And a timeout called by the Patriots, called by Brady. Brady didn't like what he saw. Just a reminder, the SEC Championship on CBS is Saturday. Number 1 Alabama takes on Missouri for the SEC title. And then Saturday evening, Fresno State and Boise State will meet for the Mountain West Championship. Boy, that was some Alabama-Auburn game yesterday, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was exciting. Hard to believe Alabama in a scoring contest like that, but they won. Missouri, very impressed how they played, too, yesterday against Arkansas.
3rd and 13. Coming out of a Patriot timeout. More pressure on Brady, who steps aside. Throws it incomplete. In the area of Amendola.
Good movement, good pressure. One more time inside. It's Dayton Jones made Tom Brady move, but let's watch. Do you find anybody open quick enough? And that's a good, he had to throw it behind the receiver. If he threw it in front, Devon House would have been there for the interception.
With the punt, not a lot of hang time, but a fair catch called by Hyde. Near midfield, 46-yard line, 38-yard punt. Jones put pressure on Brady as they force the 3 and out. Back for the Packers' first possession of the second half. After scoring on all 5 drives of the first half.
Taco, flip, taco. Green 18.
And again, he handed it off with his right hand. Went to Lacy for 1. We talked to Rodgers about how do you like your footballs, because you know you can rub them up before the game. This is something you really kind of created for everybody else in this league.
I don't know if I did, because the quarterbacks got tired of him complaining. But he said something was unique. I like to push the limit to how much air we can put in the football, even go over what they allow you to do, and see if the officials take air out of it, because he thinks it's easier for him to grip. He likes them tight. Of course, he's got very big hands, and you can tell that by watching him play.
2nd and 9, and that's Cobb getting his second carry. You've never heard of a guy really desiring a football to be fat and overinflated before, hadn't he?
Everybody wants it smaller and soft so they can dig their fingers into it. But he's such a feel thrower. You can tell it. The one touchdown he threw down the field to the tight end, just such feel, and he flicks it. And that shows you just has great control of it with his fingers and his hand.
Yeah, he said, God gave me big hands and a strong grip.
Now, you know, the officials do check those footballs, and sometimes maybe you can get lucky and put an extra half a pound of air in there to help Aaron Rodgers out.
3rd and 3. Looking for a second option now, looking for the first down, and he's got it. Nothing open down the field, and Rodgers able to pick up.
Well, what they tried to do this time, here's Ninkovich. Watch him, number 50. He's going to try to mirror the quarterback. Oops, and it's too much. And you realize, like you do a lot of times, you can watch all the film and tape you want. You get on the field, you go, man, he's a lot faster than I thought. Aaron Rodgers can run and get away from linebackers.
Yeah, he picked up 9. And the first down at the New England 38.
319! 319!
I'm not sure that's going to be ruled a catch. Incomplete. Stripped out of his hands by Arrington. How about the time Rodgers has had to throw?
Well, what do? If you charge him, he'll go around you. How about that pump fake? Then throws on the run. It's just something he does incredible. He's incredible at it. How about this pump fake to hold on to the football, then just flicks it over the top of everybody. Hits Rodgers in stride, but that's just a few. We had a lot of plays to choose from. No quick pressure on him. And when he moves, nobody able to chase him down.
And with that time, he's had 5 different receivers with a catch of 25 yards or longer. 2nd and 10. Gets it over to Cobb for another first down.
Well, I don't know if he looked out there and says, oh, it's Arrington this time on the coverage instead of Darrelle Revis, and he looks that way. Simple route from the slot. Everybody in the league runs that play. But a good route by Randall Cobb and an excellent throw.
Cobb's 5th catch for 67 yards.
Does New England have the manpower to stop this offense? When you can't pressure the quarterback.
319! 319!
To Lacy. And that's Hightower on him in a hurry. And a loss of 2. With NFL Now, get access to the largest NFL video library on the planet. Select your favorite teams or players, and NFL Now delivers nonstop videos on all your favorite devices. Get NFL Now for free, NFL.com/now.
Shoot, New England, they're like, wow, a run play. This is exciting. They have a chance. You know, when he drops back to pass, do you have the answers? And we've talked about it a lot. So far, none.
7th play of this drive. 2nd and 12. Not going to escape this time as Chris Jones gets credit for the sack.
Really good job that time by the defensive line, staying where they're supposed to. Don't get out of your rush lane. So when he readjusts, Chris Jones is still there to make the tackle.
Oh, that head bounced off the ground rather violently.
Boy, did it ever. Well, we talked a lot about this field, and this field is still holding up great. The traction, it's a fast surface for both teams here today.
Undeterred, Rodgers back on his feet from the shotgun, 3rd and 17. And he's got Cobb again, but it's going to be short of the first. It'll call out Crosby for his 4th field goal try.
Randall Cobb. He is quick from that inside receiver. Watch him on the left side, 18, just made a quick little move. And Aaron Rodgers jumps in the air to make the throw. How about that?
Crosby has already gone over in this game 1,000 points for his career. This from 40 yards out. And this time, no good. Just his third miss of the entire season.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Book your low fare now at southwest.com. New York Life Insurance Company. And by new Amazon Fire TV Stick, the most powerful streaming stick.
Aerial coverage of today's game is provided by MetLife, with these visuals provided by the great Bob Michelson. Here's first down for New England, and it's Blunt for a couple.
I think New England needs to get back to running this football, because when they've run it, when they're a little balanced, especially against this defense is fast. And they're loaded with a lot of defensive backs and linebackers who can run. So go right at them. The 30th in the NFL in run defense. Yes, it's been better lately. But if there's a weakness, that's it.
10 carries for the Patriots, 38 yards on the ground, 2nd and 8. And Gronkowski is not going to be denied the first down. A.J. Hawk on the tackle. Gain of 10.
So you want to keep mixing it up when they get in these obvious passing situations. We've seen too. Green Bay's been pretty good at getting inside pressure against Tom Brady.
Edelman limping to the sideline on New England's last series. Not out here for the first 2 snaps of this drive. Gronkowski top of the screen, split wides. 1st and 10. And that's Clinton Dix with a good bit of coverage there on Gronkowski. Let's go back down to Tracy.
Well, thanks, Jim. You mentioned Julian Edelman. I've been watching him since he came off the field. He's tried to run. He's tried to get on the bike. He's tried to stretch it out. It is the left side of his left thigh right now. He's stretching it as well. He does have his helmet on. No official word yet from the Patriots, so just keep an eye to see if he goes back in.
Such a spark plug. So many ways. Edelman, 1st or 2nd and 10, and Kareem bouncing around, maybe manages a yard. Matthews and several others in on him.
Yeah, how about him? He's not played middle linebacker a lot here today. They've had him at the line of scrimmage, but what an adjustment for Clay Matthews. Always outside. A couple weeks ago, they moved him inside. It's really helped their run defense, and what they found out, which they already knew, he can rush the passer pretty well from inside, too.
And his dad, Clay Matthews Sr., played for Bill Belichick when Bill was the head coach at Cleveland back in the early 90s. 3rd and 9, and Brady, pass incomplete, headed in the direction of Gronkowski. And again, the Patriots offense will have to walk off the field.
Yeah, you know, they just got in tough situations, and if he had more time, I think he's going to have what he wants. He steps up, feels like he's got to get rid of. He's right, Julius Peppers, and that was Neal coming around. But they had Vereen against Matthews on a double move. Didn't have time to throw it to him.
Allen sending it down to Hyde. He lets this one bounce at the 25, and it will settle at the 23. Patriots in this quarter have run 7 plays for a total of 20 yards. 3rd quarter, same score we had at halftime. What about adjustments that you've seen here in the second half?
Well, you know, one thing, it's cold here, and I think what's impressed me, it really hasn't affected play at all. Both quarterbacks handling it well, the wide receivers, and it's the adjustments. Well, New England tried something different against Green Bay's offense the first series.
There's Lacy, and he bounces off a hit and plows ahead for about 14.
And that's the one thing you cannot let happen, is let this offense start running the football. But Rodgers and the right tackle that time Bulaga just did a good job of pushing it down inside, and Lacy saw the cutback.
Lacy, 15 carries, 66 yards.
Well, they're definitely in a blitz look here.
Win 18! Win 18!
pass to Rodgers.
I don't know if I've seen New England all year blitz more than really 5 people, maybe every once in a while with the read, but they like to keep their safety, Devin McCourty, Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator, they like to keep somebody in the middle in case they don't win the battle, they don't give up a huge play.
2nd and 7. Rodgers and Quarles, 2 tight ends.
It's one of those formations. They do a lot of different things out of this. It can, on the defensive side, make you think.
3 in the backfield behind Aaron. Lacy, the tailback, gets the call. And that unusual formation doesn't lead to anything that time. No gain.
Well, we've seen some of these today. Randall Cobb in the backfield, got him matched up against the linebacker. Kind of a pick play. It works very well. Terrific throw. Then Boykin in the backfield. Nice little flip. Gets you 6 or 7 yards. But how about this one? 3rd down and short. A big play. They come up with something that I'm sure New England has not seen. And it picked up the 1st down and led to a score.
Rodgers is over 300 yards passing. And a pair of touchdowns. Now on a 3rd and 7. Got his man. Wide open was Adams. As Dennard had somehow fallen off on the coverage. And it picks up 12.
Well, he just ran right into him. That's what it looked like. Oh, boy, that was a blatant push off with the right arm by Adams, and it was not caught.
Adams is over 100 yards now.
New England tried a little different pass rush that time, and the Green Bay Packers absolutely destroyed it. And Aaron Rodgers had space and time to make that throw.
Adams, who was on the receiving end of many of Derek Carr's passes out of Fresno State during his career, drafted in the spring in the 2nd round. Whistle first.
Delay game, offense, 5-yard penalty. It's 1st down.
Well, Jim, you talked about it a little there. You were talking about Lindsley, the center, you know, who they drafted, and he was a real center in college and played well. This offensive line, so far, they've been outstanding.
It was just interesting hearing not only Aaron Rodgers talk to us about it this week, but also Coach McCarthy about how the formula had been for this franchise in the past. Let's just go draft a bunch of tackles and then we'll convert them.
Yeah.
And Aaron's so happy to have now a true center who has gelled so fast with this Packer offensive line, which has been in place really since week 3. This first 5. And Nelson has it at the last moment, tipped away by Browner, incomplete.
Boy, good little play. They kind of faked it outside, and Nelson comes underneath. He can sell it. That was awesome. And the throw was just behind, and Browner, tall, every bit of 6'4", able to knock it down. And Aaron Rodgers knows if I put it out in front, and he talked about that. If he's accurate, they are great running after the catch.
That would have gone for some significant yards after the catch. It was definite space ahead. Set at 2nd and 15. Here comes the blitz. Collins coming right after him. He hits the ground as Rodgers gets taken down. Collins got back on his feet and made the sack.
Wow.
Well, he just bull rushed right up the middle, and then once that attempt was failed, he got back on his feet.
Yeah, 91, he just timed it, and now listen, he ran right over Eddie Lacy, or made him move backwards. Eddie Lacy stayed with it, knocked him down. That was dangerous. This could have been, you see those kind of hits to the legs, that can hurt for a couple weeks. There was a fumble, he fell right on it. New England, sorry Jim, when they pressure the quarterback, it seems like lately it's more from the inside than outside.
3rd and 21, underneath Adams. Nowhere to go. Again, it's Collins. And we're going to have a Green Bay punt for the first time today.
How about that? The last 3 home games, they've never punted in the first half. But New England, 2 times, 2 good stops by their defense.
With Edelman sideline, Amendola is the returner for the punt of Tim Mastay. And Amendola is decked. After a 38-yard punt, House brings him down. It's a cold afternoon in Green Bay for the two hottest teams in football.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Game of War. Play free now. And by Frost Brewed Coors Light, the game's most refreshing beer.
A little over 80,000 on hand at Lambeau here in Green Bay, a city with a population of about 100,000. 80 inside the stadium right now. As the Patriots down 9, 2:21 to go third quarter. Start their third drive of the quarter from the 22. And that's LaFell unable to shake off Williams.
Well, Jim, you know, this offense, as you look, there's Josh McDaniels, offensive coordinator. They just haven't found that little rhythm or that one group of plays that works, that where you get the defense retreating. You know, the Packers defense confident, attacking, and, you know, they didn't dominate the run game, which I'm sure they were hoping they would. Dom Capers, defensive coordinator for the Packers, and not winning those one-on-one matchups like they thought they would either.
Edelman's back on the field, 2nd and 6. Long ball time, and it's incomplete. It was Dobson Brady was trying to find.
They're trying. They keep these long throws down the field.
And he's gimpy too.
Yep, he pulled up right away. But they put Julian Edelman in motion, tried to create something for him, and the defensive back was all over.
Looked like a hamstring issue with Dobson, who's caught only 3 passes all season.
Julius Peppers and Clay Matthews, both middle linebackers now.
And here they come on 3rd and 6. And Edelman looks around, pointing fingers, and he gets the flag when he makes the appeal.
Well, it's cold, and he just couldn't get that flag out of the pocket quick enough.
That came on a 3rd and 6.
Before the pass was thrown, illegal contact, defense, number 38. 5-yard penalty from the previous spot. Automatic first down.
Going against number 11.
And that was more than 5 yards past the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, you know, I find those plays interesting. It looked like Tramon Williams was right there, and Edelman just ran into him.
And that defender is allowed to have his space.
Absolutely. But big break for the Patriots. Maybe that's what they needed, that first down to get going.
Over the top. Gronkowski is there at the 50.
Beautiful job. The pump by Brady, then the play action fake. That's why he loves those gloves every once in a while. And the 2 tight ends, they made that play and that formation universal, where everybody in the league tries to put both tight ends together and they try to stretch them up the field just like that. They did it off play action. Gronkowski wide open.
For 19. Final minute, quarter 3. Wide receiver screen to LaFell, and Williams locks down the side. Gain of about 4, maybe 5. College basketball, our season premiere, right here in the state of Wisconsin next Saturday. Frank Kaminsky will lead number 2 Wisconsin against in-state rival Marquette right here on the road to the Final Four. CBS Sports next Saturday. No scoring here in the third quarter after a frenetic first half. Much slower and methodical, more methodical here in the third. And that's Jonas Gray getting his first carry since Indianapolis 2 weeks ago. And he's near a first. Going to be a yard short.
Well, the Patriots, one thing they did in this third quarter, at least they slowed Green Bay's offense down.
3rd and 1 coming up to start the 4th. You're watching the NFL on CBS. The 4th. Jim Nance, Phil Simms, Tracy Wolfson.
4-down territory, I think.
Blunt hit, spins away, and look at him drive ahead inside the 30.
It was 3rd and a short 1. I thought that they would run the football, and if they didn't make it, they would go for it on 4th down. You expect Tom Brady on the quarterback sneak sometime. Boy, what a job by LeGarrette Blount getting out of the way. And that time I think it was LaTroy Guion back in the backfield and not able to make the tackle.
And Josh Boyd had a play on him too that could have stopped him short. 1st and 10. And it's Blount again, bouncing off the first hit, the second hit, and then ridden down.
Wow.
For 13. He sometimes is impossible to tackle. Just in fact go back to a game here in 2011 when he was a member of the Tampa Bay Bucks. Just look at this run, going in the same direction they are right now. A career-long 54-yard touchdown run at the time. Pass batted down. That was Peppers. He's disappointed he actually didn't come down with the football. He's already run a couple of interceptions back for touchdowns this year.
Yeah, as you talk about LeGarrette Blount, he had some runs just like that last week against Detroit, and Julius Peppers, still so athletic, dropped a few pounds up here playing outside linebacker and defensive end.
Vereen at the bottom of the screen, split wide, 2nd and 10. Brady, a fake end zone bound, touchdown. LaFell for the 2nd time.
Beautiful throw, little pump fake, and just ripped it back shoulder, right on target. And Brandon LaFell, big, tall receiver. Top of the screen. There it is, little quick move, just enough. And then that is the perfect throw. Watch a little pump fake, boom.
It's a little shoulder hitch.
Yep, that's all you want to do. It doesn't take much.
How about LaFell too? His journey to this spot now, being such a big cog in the New England offense. Grew up in the city of Houston at Lamar High School. Extra point. Good job on the hold there by Ryan Allen. Brady's 2nd touchdown of the game. They both have ended up in the hands of LaFell. Brandon LaFell in high school. Josh Gordon was at his high school, a freshman when LaFell was a senior. That goes to LSU. He's got guys like Dwayne Bowe in front of him.
Yep, never was the man. You know, Steve Smith at Carolina, he comes here, now you are the guy. He's the #1 outside receiver on this team without question.
Gostowski. Again, Harris is going to try it. He goes past the defender. And it's +5, 25-yard line. Bolden was the tackler. Rodgers, can he respond now to the New England touchdown?
Watching the NFL on CBS.
This game is tight because of what these teams have done in the red zone, or in the case of the Packers, what they weren't able to do.
Right. I think over the years, we talked about that early. Bill Belichick noted for his red zone defense, you can get yards. One year they were ranked almost last in the league in total yards defensively, but they were about 10th in scoring.
Top of the screen, Browner is on Nelson. Rivas on Cobb in the slot on the near side. First down throw, and it was to Cobb, incomplete.
Boy, good fake. Everybody up near the line of scrimmage. Look at the second half. Green Bay 57 yards, and Aaron Rodgers early in the second half got out of the pocket, made something happen, but once that first play happened, they kind of kept him back there and done a much better job not letting him get outside and get those big plays.
Second and 10 to Lacy. And the Packers will have a 3rd and 7 coming up.
There's more speed on the field for New England defensively. Two big guys in there, everybody else in there was a pretty good runner, so if the quarterback breaks or whatever happens, you have a better chance of stopping it, no question.
You saw Dominique Easley, their first-round pick, come in for reinforcement on the defensive line. He's lined up over the center, Lindsley. 3rd and 7. Rodgers steps up, has the first down. Quarles with the catch, his first of the game. Right in front of Patrick Chung.
Yeah, really good job. And you saw what they did, though. He moved, and they had a defender come right at Aaron Rodgers. Everybody waiting for him to move. That was easily dropping off, trying to stop him from moving, but he found the receiver, made a good throw.
Big 3rd down conversion for the Packers, who could ill afford to put their defense right back onto the field after surrendering a touchdown.
Jim, they really only have one defensive lineman in there.
First down, and it's Adams spinning away and getting to the New England 45. It was Dennard on the coverage, and Dennard who he was able to break away from for 17.
Boy, how about Adams? They needed him to come through today, and he has done that with flying colors.
6th catch for Adams for 121 yards.
319!
It's Lacy. He gets pulled down at the 40 by Collins and Chung. And a reminder, Week 13 continues tonight. Broncos and the Chiefs. That's a good one on NBC. Then the Dolphins and the Jets will tangle on ESPN tomorrow.
Tom Brady really just living and dying with his defense as he walks up and down the sideline. Very involved in both sides today.
Second
and 5. Rodgers goes to Quarles again for another first down.
You know, it's just so easy for Aaron Rodgers in these throws. Quarles out there, contact, turn, here comes the ball right to your chest.
Boy, how fast did he get Chung off balance with that shove right off the snap?
Right at the line of scrimmage, the most aggressive guy wins, and that time it was the tight end. But Aaron Rodgers makes those outside throws, does it with no effort and great accuracy.
He's down Lacy, open field inside 20, down to the 15.
They're trying a lot of different defensive looks. The Patriots they attack the line of scrimmage. Nobody in the middle that time. Dante Hightower on a blitz from the over tackle. And now in the red zone, where the Patriots have had success stopping this defense.
Yes, 17-yard run that time. Remember, 9 plays in the red zone in this game run by Green Bay, and a total of -4 yards on those 9 plays in the red zone.
319!
First down from the 15. Rodgers. That's Lacy. And he's knocked out by Browner after a gain of 5.
Boy, good movement once again by Aaron Rodgers. Ayers makes him step up. And again, just a quick flick.
2nd and 5. Ball at the 10.
See his hands in his pockets. He likes to keep them warm. As long as they stay warm and moist, he says, doesn't matter how cold it is out there.
319!
Steps back. All kinds of time. Looking. Incredible time. Now just throws it away. In the area of Lacy.
Unbelievable. What coverage by the Patriots. Can't even just watch. See if you see anybody shake loose. It's free. But it's the move up and back by Aaron Rodgers, which just paralyzes pass rushers. When he steps up, then comes back, what do you do as a rusher? You stand still.
Chung needs some attention.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by PlayStation 4. Greatness awaits. T. Rowe Price, understanding the connections of a complex global economy. Invest with confidence. And by Mercedes-Benz. Experience truly great engineering today at your authorized dealer.
We are back. Both Chung and Hightower were injured on that last play. And they're making Chung go out.
That's right. Play was stopped because he was injured along with Hightower. Third down here. What do you do on the defensive side? I think you do what you did the last play. Make sure you keep the quarterback in the pocket and trust your coverage, which has been pretty good all day long.
Tavon Wilson comes in for Chung. 3rd and 5. That last play, Rodgers had 12 seconds back in the pocket area.
And they pushed the pocket back to make him throw it on time.
They're blitzing. Rodgers got it away. And it was dropped for a touchdown. Adams, who's been such a go-to guy today, drops the crucial pass that would have gone for 6.
Boy, New England changed up. They came with the blitz. Adams, top of your screen. Oh, nice job. He sells it. The hesitation and the quick move. And right through his hands. Boy, they did a terrific job. Well, he just got rid of it.
Rodgers can't believe it after he looked out. After being slung down. 28 yards now, Crosby. And that one is good inside the right upright for the Packers' first points of the second half. 26-21. Well, they hold them to a field goal. The Patriots do. That's 4 red zone field goals now by the Packers, and a drop that would have been a certain touchdown by Adams. But the field goal keeps it a 1-score game. That was just huge for the New England side. Ball skips into the hands of Amendola. And he's near the 30. Some wild action earlier today. How about the Chargers? The Superchargers 10 down on the road in the 4th and rally to beat the Ravens. They'll host New England next Sunday. And the Saints 0-3 on a 3-game homestand. Go on the road, win at Pittsburgh. How do you figure? J.J. Watt caught another touchdown today as the Texans took out some frustration on the Titans to get back to 500 on the year. First and 10, and Brady to Gronkowski out to the 42. One last note on that Texans win. Ryan Fitzpatrick today, 6 touchdown passes. This league, week to week, just when you think you know what's going to happen, you see a New England at Pittsburgh and a Saint victory.
I gave up a long time ago. I don't know. So that's why it's just, let's wait and see. Never know who's going to win, and a good start by the Patriots there, throwing to Gronkowski.
Makes it so much fun as Bogan is stacked up for a loss. A.J. Hawk was the first to get to him. Matthews finished it off. Loss of 1.
Passing receivers. Tim Wright comes in the game. Shane Vereen.
Bolton getting the carry on that last play. Now taken out. That was his first attempt since scoring a touchdown. 2nd and 11 over to Vereen, and he can't find the handle. Incomplete. Ball might have been tipped.
It was tipped.
Peppers, I believe.
And the timing was great. I thought it would be a zone coverage. I would think Tom Brady too, because nobody follows Edelman across the field. Julius Peppers, second time today, tipping the football.
Third and 11.
Clay Matthews in the middle. Always have to be alert for him blitzing.
He backs off. Brady's pass caught by Edelman, but he's going to be about 3 yards short of the first. They let him have that one. Matthews celebrates with a fist in the air.
Let's see what the Patriots, 4th down, keeping their offense on the field. Boy, Bill Belichick has taken a lot of big chances in his career. It just comes to this. He doesn't think his defense can stop Aaron Rodgers.
We're talking 4th and 3 here. 6:40 to go in the game. Brady gets the first down to Edelman.
Yeah, they go to an old staple there. Stack the receivers, bring Julian Edelman in motion, and then he has a two-way go. Is he going to go inside or out? Fakes inside quick. We've seen that play, Jim, 100 times in games we have done for the Patriots.
How about that gamble, though?
Man, it's good to have Super Bowl rings in your pocket.
Yeah, because I don't know how many coaches would do it.
That's how you can make those decisions when you have had as much success as Bill Belichick has.
It's Blunt for 3. We've got an update on Arizona and Atlanta. Back to JB in New York.
Julio paced the Falcons.
And what a day he had, JB. 10 catches, 189 yards, 1 touchdown. Atlanta goes to 5-7. Arizona falls to 9-3.
Back to Jim, Phil, and Tracy.
All right, guys. On the Green Bay side, with a win today, it would be the 2 seed in the current standings. A loss would drop them back to 6. 2nd and 7 as Brady. Perhaps a little miscommunication with Gronkowski. And a 3rd and 7 coming up as Josh McDaniels looks at his play chart.
Well, he was looking for the big play. Danny Amendola came across and did the fake in, go out. He was open for the first down, but nothing wrong with trying to hit Gronkowski one-on-one. Well, if they went forward before on 4th down on the other side of the 50, then you have to assume, without question, this is 4-down territory.
Stack the right side. Edelman again was gimpy after making the big catch. He's on the field again. Brady's got Gronkowski, another first down.
Wow.
Right in front of Hyde.
What a throw. I mean, that was everything he had. They tried a different defense. Julius Peppers blitzing from the middle. When he comes out, they break. Football right on target. Watch him turn that shoulder and just rip it. Nothing you can do except make the tackle.
Blunt is the running back. New England driving. Looking to go ahead as Blunt has another first down. Their 4th of this series. Running behind Dan Connolly.
Boy, does he look good running the football. He looks fast. You know, didn't get to run the football enough down in Pittsburgh, so he's fresh. And the big thing I've noticed about him, too, since he's come back to the Patriots, he's running lower, breaks more tackles, gets extra yards.
Adams on the bench. His drop kept this a 1-score game. Blunt earns another carry. And again, that first contact's not going to bring him down. He's got 2.
Well, you know, too, 3 minutes and 50 seconds to go. That no matter what now, you're playing in 4-down territory. And, of course, Tom Brady, you don't even have to tell him. He knows the situation. If it's not there, throw it away.
Second and 9. And incomplete. That was Gronkowski trying to make the diving catch. It's their first-round pick, Clinton Dix, covering.
Oh, it comes out. He makes the catch, but did it ever hit the ground?
Matthews was coming in. 3rd and 9 coming up. They've already escaped 4th and 3rd, and a 3rd and 7 on this drive. And behind, they get him this time. Mike Neal is almost like Brady didn't know he was there.
Nope, looking down the middle of the field, didn't feel the pressure. Mike Neal from the outside. Boy, that was some job of reaching around Nate Solder and sacking Tom Brady.
And then Mike Daniels helped out. 47 yards for Gostowski to try to bring it back to a 2-point deficit. 47-yard kick is going to be wide right. Gostowski had made his last 13 attempts. It's only his second miss of the season.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by FedEx One Rate. Simple flat rate shipping with the reliability of FedEx. And by Subway Restaurants. Subway is saying thanks this season with $2 subs.
Just a reminder, Thursday night we'll be in Soldier Field as Romo and the Cowboys will take on Forte and the Chicago Bears. NFL Network Thursday night, Dallas and Chicago. Now, 2 timeouts for New England. Remember, they had to burn one on their first drive of the game, of the second half, I should say. 2:40 to go, and the Packers lead it by 5.
2 backs, 2 tight ends. They can run all the way.
It's Lacy up the middle for 2, and it looks like the Patriots are going to go right to their timeout. Leaves them with 1. By the way, next Sunday, the NFL on CBS, regional games, one matchup, the Steelers and the Bengals. The Bengals, the only team in the AFC North to win today. What a finish that was down in Tampa. They got a 1.5 lead now over Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Baltimore. Plus other regional action, plus, of course, the NFL today leads it off at noon Eastern time as you look at the latest AFC playoff picture. New England right now in the 1 position, having already beaten Denver, Cincinnati, and Indianapolis, the other 3 division leaders.
New England has 1 timeout left. If they stop them here, I'm sure they'll use their final timeout and use a 2-minute warning.
319!
It's Lacy. Tried to break out of a jam, but Ninkovich held on. Gain of 4. And there you go, New England taking its last timeout.
What was good about the timeouts, I mean, it's pretty simple, but it's 2:28 to go. Now you have Green Bay in the situation that you wanted. The 3rd, and is it a running down? Do they run it to get to the 2-minute warning? You know, New England's going to be bracing for that. And if you throw it, it's incomplete. New England gets that extra time plus the 2-minute warning.
Brady stays loose on the New England sideline.
And I think, you know, listen, you're the Green Bay Packers. You have Aaron Rodgers. This situation, they just brought in their passing unit. I think they throw the football and try to win the game, of course, right here.
Boykin, Adams, Cobb, and Nelson, along with Quarles, who has caught a couple of passes in this second half. Cobb lines up in the backfield with Rodgers on 3rd and 4. Now he clears. Rodgers looking, firing, and somehow it's caught by Randall Cobb with 2 defenders right around him, Ryan and McCourty, and it's first down Green Bay.
They had the perfect defense. They played it right, but no pressure. Watch when he comes across the field. Hightower is going to take it, but the extra time, he waits and finds Cobb across the formation.
2-minute warning. 2 minutes to go, and New England cannot stop the clock.
Well, that last play was just a illustration of what we've seen all day long. The protection, lack of a pass rush, whatever you want to say. Aaron Rodgers moving around, forward and backwards was the key. And getting extra time to throw and finding guys for big plays.
The first matchup, Brady and Rodgers, it was as good as all the buildup.
Well, I thought they both played extremely well. And Aaron Rodgers, the fact that, you know, the #1 key for New England's defense, stopping him from moving. And he, you know, and I really mean that. His moving for quarterbacks out there to see what he did, to move forward and then back up, it stops the pass rush. And he did that many times and got a second look at the defense and made some plays.
Another kneel down. New England's 7-game win streak about to come to a close. Had won 14 straight against NFC North opponents. A reminder tonight on CBS begins with 60 Minutes and a report on criminals hacking your credit cards, followed by an all-new Madam Secretary, plus the season premiere of The Mentalist and a new CSI on America's most watched network, CBS.
You know, as we talk about this, we got to give a little credit to this Green Bay defense. Probably didn't talk about it enough, but the speed, the hustle, kind of what they build around. They play a lot of guys, and their philosophy came through today for them and it worked.
Green Bay Packers are going to take it 26-21. For now, because of the record inside the conference, Arizona would still be, at the moment, the 1, Green Bay the 2. New England still the 1 seed on the AFC side, even with the loss and falling to 9-3. Rodgers with 368 yards and a pair of touchdowns.